If you're applying for a green card in 2025, things just got way more complicated. With mandatory interviews, stricter financial reviews, and a major crackdown on fraud, even real couples are facing longer delays and more denials. My name is Zaira Solano, founder of Solano Immigration Law Firm. In today's video, I'll be breaking down exactly what's changed and how to avoid the traps that could quickly kill your case. Mandatory interviews for everybody. All marriage-based cases are now getting scheduled for in-person interviews at the local USCIS office. No more waivers, even for strong cases. During the Biden administration, we saw thousands and thousands of people get waived from having to go to an interview. That's no longer the case. Officers from USCIS are under strict orders to assess every single marriage strictly for their validity and to schedule people for interviews. USCIS officers have also expanded fraud detection efforts. They're including now looking into your social media, surprise home visits, and public reporting hotlines for people to report anybody that they suspect is in a fraudulent marriage. Officers are trained to find fraud, red flags, anything that's inconsistent, even if it's a small detail, is something that they are now flagging for potential fraud. The public charge rule is another soon and upcoming change. It hasn't actually come back yet, but we expect that the Trump administration will probably reinstate the rule that it first instated in 2019. USCIS is already making moves showing that their goal is to bring it back and potentially make the public charge rule in 2025 even stricter than it was during the 2019 Trump administration. In fact, the I-485 application to adjust status to that of a lawful permanent resident is now more detailed, asking for financial information such as incomes, assets, debts, public benefits, and it's showing a clear shift towards tougher financial scrutiny. Processing times are even longer than before. Adjustment of status process in the United States was on average taking less than a year with the previous administration. Now you can expect no less than 12 to 18 months, which can go even longer than those, but at a minimum, that's a time frame to expect. The reason for the delay is because of mandatory interviews and stricter case reviews for marriage fraud. Those of you who are consular processing, meaning that you're not adjusting status in the United States, but attending a consular interview in your home country, can expect a much lengthier time frame. On average, you're looking at anywhere from 18 to 24 months through marriage-based green card at the embassy. Why is it slower? Mandatory interviews, stricter financial documents review, and longer fraud investigations. Proving a real marriage now is harder than before because USCIS has raised the bar even higher on their standards for someone to prove a real marriage. USCIS is expecting you to provide significant evidence to show that you are married for real and not for an immigration benefit. Some of the best things you can include to prove your marriage are birth certificates for children that you have together, commingling of finances, such as joint bank account statements, joint tax returns, any financial documents that have both of your name on there. Proof that you're living together, such as leases or mortgage in both of your names, utility bills at the same address. If you're traveling together, you want to include that. Photos, anything to show that you are building a life together and that you live together. Financial evidence, not just to prove your marriage, but to also prove that the U.S. citizen petitioner, who's also the sponsor, meets the 125% federal poverty guidelines, is also really important. That includes either your W-2 or 1099, your tax transcripts, and proof that you are currently employed at the income level that you stated on your application. The applicant applying for lawful permanent resident status also needs to list their assets and their income on their application to avoid a public charge finding. In 2025, interviews are mandatory. We're not really seeing any interview waivers anymore. Nearly all applicants need to go in person, especially on a marriage-based application. Officers are trained to ask you very detailed personal questions that any couple should be able to answer about each other if it's a real marriage. And if you provide inconsistent information or if you can't answer basic questions, they will flag your application as inconsistent and possible for fraud. Consular interviews at the embassy are also tougher. There's always been a requirement for the person to appear for an interview, and that's also not going away. Some consulates require you to schedule multiple appointments for a medical exam, and then another one to drop off documents, and then another one for a final visa interview. Officers at the embassy will look for consistency among the information that you provide at all of your appointments. So a recap of the Trump-era policies that are affecting green card applications include no more interview waivers for marriage-based green cards. Interviews are now mandatory. Higher scrutiny with increased fraud screening detection. Public charge financial scrutiny. Increased green card denials because you don't submit the necessary documents or you don't submit sufficient evidence. And prolonged processing times. This means that you need stronger evidence to prove your marriage, stronger evidence to show your financial stability. You need to expect processing times that are going to take longer, and you also need to know that denials are more common than before for poorly prepared cases. My recommendation for couples applying for a green card in 2025, first, it's to start early and to actually start. You can expect your case will be pending for at least a year, in many cases more, and you should plan your life around waiting for this green card for that amount of time. Number two, make sure your application is bulletproof. You want to submit your application with strong evidence of your marriage and financial documents. Yes, you can bring evidence to the interview, but it's best to send all the required evidence and more when you first send in your application so that the officer can see that before you even come through the interview door. Number three, practice for the interview. Know your relationship, no important dates, no information about trips, family information, financial arrangements, and just very basic things that all couples should know about each other. Also, hire a lawyer. If you've had any prior immigration issues, if there's a big age gap between the two spouses, if you have a big cultural difference, language gap, or if you're adjusting after you entered with a visa and overstayed the time that Homeland Security allowed you to be in the United States. Lastly, I recommend that you have strong financial documents. As a sponsor, you must meet the income requirements. And if you don't have the evidence to support the income that you state you're making and that meets the USCIS poverty guidelines, your case could run into trouble. We just covered why it's harder to get a green card based on marriage in 2025 during the Trump administration. I also gave you some tips on how to avoid it. But once you get the green card, how do you know to keep it safe during the stricter times? Check out our next video, How to Protect Your Green Card in 2025. If you or a loved one need immigration help, don't wait. Call or text the number on the screen or click on the link in the description because Solano Immigration Law Firm handles immigration cases anytime, anywhere.